Hey everyone, got something new today. Got a comic panel finished. I'm going to do something a little bit different with this video. We're going to make it a long format video where I'm going to show you the coloring process, show you the behind the scenes with the sketchbook and how something like this is created, and give you an idea of what sort of work goes into developing a piece like this. Hope you enjoy. Alright, so here we have the finished piece. 9x12 alcohol markers, Micron fine liners, some colored pencils. This is kind of what goes into creating a piece like this. So this is my nephew Owen's gift for his 16th birthday, which is today. So 2 years ago when he was 14, I created a comic book page that was sort of like an imagining of what would Owen look like if he was in the zombie apocalypse. I'll put that up on the screen, but this year I got to thinking, what would it look like if he was 2 years farther into the zombie apocalypse? How would he have evolved? How would the world have evolved? So I bust out my old trusty sketchbook here. This is a terrible sketchbook with all kinds of different ideas, messes. I mean, nothing in here is meant to be finished or really to be seen. It's just where ideas are formed. So let's see, where was I at? All right, here's where it began. So I've got a few different panel ideas. First thought was, him driving because he's turning 16 and definitely got to be in a car. And I was trying to think of cool breakaway ideas, something to pop out of the panel. So my first thought was, okay, maybe he's going to be dragging a sword, and maybe the sword spark line would be what kind of divided the page up. But I played with different shapes here and thumbnails and really didn't like anything I was coming up with. So I flipped the page and started doing different poses. Like maybe we aren't looking at him behind the wheel. Maybe he's leaned up against the car and there's zombies in the background. Maybe he's on top of the car. Maybe he's lying on top of the car looking up at the sky. And maybe he's got his sword out and he's like welcoming a challenge. I kind of like this idea. So I thought, all right, let's develop this. Then I started making some mannequins to our ideas of armor. I was kind of thinking Mad Max. I was also kind of thinking samurai because he's all about some samurai swords. So why not? Let's combine the two. So this is my first draft of like Road Warrior Samurai, Mad Max Samurai, Tire Armor Samurai, whatever. So here we go. I've kind of got a more fleshed out idea here. So this thumbnail is just a blocked in representation of Owen standing in the front, him driving down the road, a look from the countryside of what he's driving into, and then running into a big horde of zombies while he's getting out of the car. He gets out of the car, stands up, holds the sword out for the ready, and, accepts the challenge to come. So played with some more armor ideas. This is what I ended up going with, was this version here, just more detailed. Owen and I used to play a lot of Plants vs. Zombies, so I wanted to kind of have a little Easter egg in there. So the big zombie in the background is kind of inspired by the Plants vs. Zombies Gargantor. So from there, we're going to start the process of showing you from pencil sketch, ink, to color, to finished piece. Hope you like it. All right, so here you have mostly inked piece. You can still see my construction lines. You can still see my under sketch. A lot of the decision-making process is hidden in there. So when creating pieces like this, it's always a good idea to draw everything out in pencil first, then line it, then erase your pencil marks, and then start with the coloring process. So here I know that my trees are going to be kind of on the yellowish side, but also on the orangish side. I want this to be sort of a sunset he's driving, he's driving through the evening. So I'm starting off by doing a light green and then layering over top of it with a pale blue. The green is more on the yellowish side, so I was hoping the blue would work that and kind of create the in the distance kind of look. It ends up being a little bit too vivid, so you'll notice in a few steps after I layer a few more greens and a couple of orangey colors in, that I go back in with just a regular gray and kind of knock everything down. Gives it kind of a dull and muddier look to better fit the atmosphere. I'm also knowing that when I go in with black, I'm going to make a lot of big decisions, and it's going to take the temperature of the whole piece down and hopefully tie it all together. So just being careful here around my edges, because once you get your marker down, there's no coming back from it. Still making decisions on the fly here. I decided just to give the zombies a little bit of a silhouette instead of detailing all of them. It turned out to be a good idea. It ends up being successful, and I don't spend a whole lot of time drawing 20 zombies back there. So I'm trying to be efficient with myself too, so I'm bouncing around from panel to panel, using all of the color that I need. You can't see it, but off screen there's a giant piece of paper that I'll use as a test sheet. You should never, ever, ever trust the caps of your markers. Always test it on another sheet and see how it looks. Test it with what you're going to be blending with, and make sure they blend the way you expect. I also like to use a lot of similar colors. So in the trees, I think you just saw 5 different colors in play. Now here I am just adding some splatters of mud to the tire armor that Owen's wearing. This is the second shade of brown. I think this one ends up being about 5 different shades too before it ever gets hit with gray. Building up colors with alcohol markers is a pretty important part of the process. You can always leave things flat, but that's how they will appear. They'll just look flat. Like I could leave the tire flat gray like that instead of layering in. This is gray 1, I think, cool gray 1. And then I go back in with cool gray 3, cool gray 5, cool gray 7. I was going to use cool gray 9, but my tip was busted, so I just went with black instead of 9. In each layer, you're leaving a little bit of that work that you put down before. So I'm still leaving a lot of the light gray peeking through as highlights. But I'm covering a lot of it too to create some depth. And I know that I'm going to go over with another darker shade and create even more depth. This is the 3rd gray tone going down now. Again, being more and more selective with each pass and how much color I'm putting down. I don't want to overdo all the work I put in before. I don't want to completely cover up my mud. I don't want to completely cover up my light grays. But I need a range of color. I moved on to kind of coloring in some of the leather pieces. Again, starting with my lightest color, my highlight color, and then putting in midtones and shadows. Here I chose blue for his gi or kimono, just because I thought blue would be a good complementary color. Owen likes blue, and this is, his birthday present, so it's kind of a tribute to him with lots of little nuggets hidden throughout. I might talk about some of that. But I thought blue was a good complement to all of the greens on the page and the yellows on the page. Alright, so now we're going in for more of a sunset looking effect. I've layered the sky with yellow and then a little bit of orange to kind of give it a little bit of a sunset glow kind of tint. I'm going right over top of my blue, trusting that it's going to blend on the page, which it does. And then going back over with my yellow and sometimes even with blue again to help it blend. These are alcohol markers, so you keep going back and forth and working them into each other. Moving on to flesh tones. Again, you're going to see a theme here. I use 5 different colors for skin. 6, I guess, if you count black. So I'm just laying in the base tone now. This is also going to be my lightest tone. And then, much like you've seen before, first process of laying in shadows. And then I'll keep making the shadows deeper and deeper and deeper until I get to the point where I feel like it's right. When you're creating things like this, I don't have a reference to be pulling from, so I'm really just going by feel for what feels right, what feels like it's in the right place. I'm imagining the same light source and trying to make it all work together. Being careful here on the holster to make sure I don't lose the little badges I put on there. So one badge is a tiger. He goes to school at a place where their mascot is the Tigers. He's got another little patch down there for an Xbox, because Owen's played Xbox for as long as I've known him. And there's another patch that is Brooke's tattoo. She does a tattoo of his initials and a sun, because his initials spell sun. And finally, there's a grass plot in Minecraft. Owen played a lot of Minecraft, and my kids, Ethan and Jackson, both play Minecraft. I feel like it's a good thing to throw in there too. So now I'm starting to throw in some shade on the road and going back into my background trees on the zombie horde. I was trying to hold the road off to last. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put stripes on it or not, but I thought at this point in the zombie apocalypse, most of it's probably worn away, or it's going to be hidden by shadows for these giant zombie bodies. And then finally getting to Owen's hair. Owen's got fabulous hair, and it's been his statement piece for the past year, growing it out. I found myself smiling and laughing a lot to myself as I was putting this together, because it just really, really worked well in this style. It looks really, really cool in my opinion. It kind of reminds me of both Afro Samurai and Cowboy Bebop in a way. But I think it looks great. Very, very happy with the silhouette that it creates and with the hair in general. So there's a little hula doll on the dashboard of his car because his 16th birthday party was a Hawaiian style luau. Alright, you notice a big skip there. I do a lot of things off screen when we're down to the wire here. We're down to the finishing touches. A lot of times when I've got 5 minutes, I may monkey around by adding a little bit of color here, a little touch up there. Things that, you know, I really didn't think that I was going to get sucked in on, so I didn't hit record on the camera. But you've seen the process so far, so we're just going to jump ahead now on adding some details to the sword blades, to the gun, trying to give the sword a bit of a metallic feel, but also want it to feel a little dangerous. Now, the sword he's holding out in challenge is a panel break, and it does go beyond just dividing the panels. It goes outside of the perimeter panel lines as well. And now for the black. I'm just using a Sharpie here with a fine tip and adding shadows. And again, I'm trusting that this is all going to tie together. You'll see me switch back to my fine liner here and there whenever I have to get a small line of black in and the Sharpie tip is just too fat, too clumsy. But I begin putting in the cast shadows from the zombies on the road. There they are. And my big head's in the way. Sorry about that. As well as blocking in all of the shadows on the character in the foreground here. Underneath the car, inside the car where he's stepping out. A little bit of detail on the tires, not much. Even though it's close to the foreground, it would be one of the darkest areas. If the sunset's in the background, the car is going to be in the shade. And some of this is the scary part, putting black on a finished piece, otherwise looking finished. It's intimidating. But I needed this to be kind of a darker setting, and I was pretty bright, pretty vibrant with my color choices. Even though I did muddy them down with the cool grays, still needed to bring the darkness home. This is the zombie apocalypse after all. It's not bright and pretty and clean. It's gritty and dirty and muddy. But I feel like the black really brings it all to the next level. What was a cool piece before becomes really cool with all the dark in there. You gotta have contrast. And in my head, I'm just thinking, okay, what are the darkest places? Where do I need to put these blacks. And also trying to maintain the same kind of style that I've already established. So I don't need my shading to be totally different with black than it has been through all the other colors. So at this point I need to make some of my black bolder. When you do the process of drawing, then lining, and then erasing, you do lose some of the intensity of the black line. So what I'm doing here is going back and at least hitting my silhouette with another round of black. That way it puts things in order three-dimensionally. So what I want to be on top, I will redo those lines, make them a little bit bolder. And now I'm going in with just a white gel pen and selectively adding highlights. Maybe some details got a little lost. Say the trigger of the gun, you kind of lose it back down in there with all the shade. So just add a couple little hints of the light peeking through. And finally we cap it all off with a signature. I chose just a little out of the way place over here behind his hip on this little extra panel that we've got. Happy birthday, Owen. Man, I really hope you enjoy this piece. I'm going to finish off this video with a little graphic audio version. Yeah.